بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد الخلق أجمعين. اللهم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. We're in the Hadith number 164 inshallah. عن Ibn Abbas, and we said Ibn Abbas his first name was Abdullah, but we don't say Abdullah. We say reference to his father, the uncle of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, Al-Abbas, who says, عن ابن عباس قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود الناس بالخير. Rasulullah عليه السلام used to be أجود. أجود is the most, the extreme mufadala, and from the Jude. The Jude is generosity. And he was the most generous. The most generous. With what? Bil khair. With good things. Some other brothers, they're very generous, but different things, not necessarily with the khair. They're generous, backstabbing each other. They're very generous with that. They give it freely. They give it, for no reason. Some people actually, they're very generous with the foul language, the belligerence. They're very generous with that. They give it freely. You want more? No problem. We'll give you more. We'll give you as much. But subhanAllah, Rasulullah sallallahu كان أجود الناس بالخير. Anything that is good, khair, Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, he was the most generous at doing. وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان. And he is more generous. The most amount of generosity comes from him during the month of Ramadan. حين يلقاه جبريل. When Jibreel used to meet Sayyidina Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. وكان جبريل يلقاه كل ليلة في رمضان حتى ينسلخ. Jibreel used to meet Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. He used to come to him every day in Ramadan until Ramadan is done. Now we'll go inshallah. يعرض عليه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم القرآن. Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam is reciting the Qur'an in front of Jibreel. فإذا لقيه جبريل عليه السلام كان أجود من الريح المرسلة. When Jibreel used to meet him, he was more generous than the wind. The wind has no limitation. Give and give and give. And he was more so after he meets Jibreel alayhi salam. We'll go back to this hadith. We'll make a few comments inshallah. Number one is that the generosity of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam was unmatched. Nobody was as generous as he was. Rasulullah alayhi wasalam gave everything that he had. As a matter of fact, we talked about so many times that, one time he gets up so quick and, out of the salah, he goes to his house and he said, why ya Rasulullah, why did you rush? Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says, I remembered, I have 6 dinars sitting in my house. I wanted to get rid of it before even he makes dua. Subhanallah. Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, Ghazwat Hunayn, we know. He gave and gave, he gave valleys filled with sheep and lamb and camels, and even the people who entered Islam recently, give them 100 camels for this guy, 100 camels for this guy, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It got to the point in Ghazwat Hunayn, even his rida, the cloth that he used to put on his shoulder, disappeared. Somebody took it. So Rasulullah said, Ya ayyuhan nas, ruddu ilayya ridai, give me my rida. You want something, I'll give it to you, but don't take my clothes. They took his clothes. He says, وَلَن تَجِدُنِي لَن تَجِدُونَنِي. You are not going to find me bakhil. I would never be cheap. And we say Umayyah ibn Khalaf, he was there in that battle, and he was not a Muslim. He was the one who was given the 4 months period for him to enter Islam. And Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam borrowed from him, or he actually rented from him, the weapons to go to the battle, right? And he had a lot of weapons in his time. So he gave it away. To look after his interest, he accompanied Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And then, you remember we talked about this, he was looking over a valley filled with sheep, and I said, Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam looked at him and said, do you like that? He says, yes, it's all yours. And then he gave him more. When he returned to Mecca, he says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, follow this man. This man, subhanAllah, he's a kafir. He's not even a Muslim. He's telling people to believe and follow Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Why? He says, this man, he is never afraid of poverty. لا يخاف فقر. He's not afraid. SubhanAllah, look at the quality of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. He's more so in the month of Ramadan, and more so at most when after he meets Jibreel alayhi salam. Now, number one. Number two is, there was a habit of Jibreel alayhi salam. He used to meet Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, وَيَتَذَاكَرُ Qur'an. He would run the Qur'an with Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam once every Ramadan. Every Ramadan, he would do the whole khutmah, everything complete, what he has learned. Except the last year. The last year he did it twice. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq heard about this, he started to cry because he noticed something would be different. Something would not going to be the same like before. And he predicted, or he was anticipating, that it is the last year where Rasulullah ﷺ is going to be amongst us here, amongst his ummah. He will be leaving immediately after. Number three is, the Qur'an as tradition. Qur'an is tradition from the days of Rasulullah ﷺ. You have to learn it from somebody. You cannot learn it on your own. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Jibreel alayhi salam. Jibreel alayhi salam taught Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he taught few of the ummah that were around him. Ubay ibn Ka'b, Zayd ibn Thabit, Uthman ibn Affan, all these Sahaba learned it. There were hundreds of the Qur'an reciters, but they have to learn one from one. And today, this is the tradition, what we call sanad. Sanad is that, if somebody who memorized Qur'an, somebody who knows Qur'an, he would say, I recited it with this, with the shaykh, the capable shaykh or whatever, and he heard it from this guy, he heard it from this guy, he heard it from this guy, and you go, all the sanad, they always go back to Uthman ibn Affan, they go back to Umar ibn Khattab, they go back to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, they go back to Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, and they say above, from Jibreel, and Jibreel learned it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you say, I heard it from so and so, so and so. This is like a chain of custody. And this chain of custody, inshallah, will never be broken until the end of time, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove all the Qur'an reciters from the face of this earth. Now, and then we said, also, you notice something, that when Rasulullah ﷺ was in Siyam, he's fasting, and yet he is the most generous. Look at the civility, look at the Muslim. Where he's not eating, he desires, he wants things, and he's given away more things what he normally gives. This is something for us to learn, to be generous in the month of Ramadan, like a sunnah from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, the second hadith, inshallah, the hadith number 165. عن أبي هريرة عبد الرحمن بن صخر رضي الله عنه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Rasulullah ﷺ says, for anybody who does not say leave or quit, qawl, the saying of zur. Zur is the wrong, the mischief, the bad. Qawlu zur, the saying of zur. Zur means, it's include all the above, lying, cheating, backbiting, all the evil sayings. That is qawlu zur. One of them, which is one of the biggest of all, shahadatu zur. Shahadatu zur is the false testimony, right? It's shahada, but zur is wrong. You make false testimony to somebody. And this is from the mubiqat. Somebody who makes shahada zur actually is associated with shirk. How? That's actually in Surah Al-Hajj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it. He says, shahada zur associated with shirk. How? Shahada zur, what does it do? If somebody makes a false testimony, he goes, like, let's say, example, he goes to court or in front of a judge, and he would make testimony. He would tell the judge, he would tell, like, let's say, a piece of land, which is rightfully belongs to one guy. He would give a false testimony, who will make it haram. He will prohibit him from taking it. So this guy is making the halal haram and the haram halal. And who does this? Shirk. You see the association? That's why from one of the biggest sins of somebody from mankind overall, man, women, is for somebody to testify falsely on behalf of somebody for any kind of monetary something, or sometimes for nothing. Just give up this testimony, and this testimony will eventually disturb the sequence of right and wrong, to the point that who determines right and wrong? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For somebody does this, he actually disturbing the sequence, and he's actually making what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it halal, he made it haram. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it haram, he makes it halal. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about the rabbis and the priests before us, and he says they used to worship them, right? And Abdullah ibn Salam, he said, Ya Rasulullah, we never worshipped them. We never worshipped our rabbis, you never worshipped our priests before, and he's a Muslim now. He says, and he asked him, he says, Rasulullah asked him, he said, didn't they make the halal haram and they made the haram halal? He says, yes, they did. He said, that is ibadatuhum. That's how you worship them. That's how you worship them. So this guy is a miniature deity of some sort by switching things around. Allahu alam. So, anybody who does not leave qawl al-zur, the bad zur qawl, saying, he says, فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need this person for him to leave his food and his drink. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. This is a warning for the Muslims, especially, and this is false testimony. The false saying is prohibited. We're prohibited in doing it any time of year. But in the month of Ramadan, it gets to be so toxic and so bad, it nulls and voids your siyam. Somebody who sits there and lie and cheat and yells and screams and cusses and does all these different things, you might as well don't fast. Just sit home, eat and drink and be happy. At least you become out even. You didn't do anything here in this case, right? The one who does the qawl al-zur nulls and voids his siyam. No. عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال آل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من نسائه وكانت انفكت رجله فأقام في مشربة 29 ليلة ثم نزل فقالوا يا رسول الله آليت شهرا قال إن الشهر يكون 29. Now this one here inshallah, subhanallah, we went a little bit ahead of ourselves here. No. Subhanallah. Let's go back to this, because that is related, this hadith, to the length of the days of the month, inshallah. We'll go back to this one, inshallah. No. So the hadith is باب الصوم لمن خاف على نفسه العزبة. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت بين أنا أمشي مع عبد الله رضي الله عنه وعبد الله بن قيس النخعي قال كنا مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Abdullah ibn Qais al-Nukhai is a Sahabi from Sahabat Rasulullah alayhi wasallam, and she says that she heard Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam and Aisha radiyallahu anha, she said, he says, من استطاع الباءة فليتزوج. Anybody who is able to get al-ba'a. What is the ba'a? Al-ba'a is anything that is needed for somebody to get married. So, could be money, could be psychologically and mentally ready to be married. And this is all considered under the umbrella of ba'a. Anybody who's able to get the ba'a, and some of the scholars said, no, it's only money, it's only about financial, for somebody to anybody who has the ba'a, who got it, فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ, has to get married. فَإِنَّهُ أغض للبصر. The zawaj, being married, أغض للبصر, your eyesight, it lowers your gaze by you being married. وأحصن للفرج, it protects your private parts. ومن لم يستطع, and somebody who does not have the ba'a, what does he do? فليصم, make siyam. فإنه له وجاء. It is وجاء. وجاء is the cover, like a lid on a pot, like وجاء on a pot. This one here, this hadith here, informs us, as Rasulullah told us, he's telling us that the siyam, fasting, is a cover for somebody. It reduces his shahawat, his desires and lusts. And Rasulullah making recommendation to his ummah, to all his ummah. anybody who's able to get the al-ba'a, the means for him to get married, everything that he needs, فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ, get married. Don't hesitate, don't wait. That is the wasiyah from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, this recommendation from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And he says, why? Because zawaj aghaddu lil-basar, it lowers the gaze. And وَأَحْصَنُ لِلْفَرْجِ, it protects, it actually seals and protects the private parts. And it's somebody who does not. What is the solution here? Is to make siyam. So that also gives us a clue. And this is, of course, what kind of siyam is. This is voluntary siyam, right? And we're going to have some hadith about this, inshallah, later. Is that the importance of what kind of nafila, the extra siyam that will make, other than the month of Ramadan, inshallah.
Even he can get loan for marriage?
Why, yes. As a matter of fact, a lot of, one of the sabil of this sadaqah, to give sadaqah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give sadaqah to a needy bachelor who does not have the means for him to get married, to give him money for him to get married. Because that is a way of sadaqah. You give him money and he will get married for it. He's fine on his own, eating and drinking, that's fine. He got enough food, he got whatever. But if he does not have the expenses for him to get married, you give him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will be considered sadaqah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for it. As a matter of fact, in a lot of Islamic countries, they have a specific box for money for people to get married. They leave the money there. It's considered to be sadaqah, and sometimes considered to be sadaqah jariyah. Because if your sadaqah, this person get married and alhamdulillah he refrained from doing bad things, he lowered his gaze, he's no longer as occupied with his lusts and desires, and his private parts are are protected. So what a better place for you to spend your money, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Money only for the mahar or
for overall, right? Overall, right? Because could be mahar. And one of the conditions, some of the expenses, including walima, right? Walima, and mahar is a must in our deen. You have to give her something tangible, And mahar, and other than mahar, also the walima, to get the invitation, is part of the conditions. As I think we mentioned it, is that for the whole community to know that this person married to this, this bachelor married to this bachelorette, that if they sees them together, there's no longer fitna, there's no longer an assumption of wrongdoing amongst them. So the whole community has to know, and the walima is one condition. Some of the scholars said it's a condition. You cannot do, marriage or nikah without walima. It has to be a part of it. Now we're going into the other hadith, inshallah, about babu إذا رأيتم الهلال. عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكر رمضان فقال لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال. Do not fast until you see the hilal. Right? Nice. ولا تفطروا حتى تروه. And do not break your fast, do not break your siyam until you see it. Right? فإن غم عليكم فقدروا له. فإن غم, if it's covered for you, like could be clouds or could be wind or could be some kind of some kind of storm, for a reason that you cannot do the hilal, فَقْدِرُوا لَهُ, make calculation for it. Calculation is what? And now we're going to talk about this, inshallah. What is the calculation that you make if you cannot see the hilal, if the hilal cannot be seen? And of course, let's go back to this a little bit, because the next hadith kind of explains it a little bit better, inshallah. عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال صوموا لرؤيته. Fast when you see it. You see what? The moon, the hilal, right? وافطروا لرؤيته. Make futur when you see the hilal as well. فإن غبي عليكم, if it's covered on you, you cannot see it anymore. فأكملوا عدة شعبان 30. Make the length of Sha'ban to be 30 days. Now we're stepping into this big controversial issue of how to find out about Ramadan. Whether, and we know the two groups of, two schools of thought. One school of thought is that's saying that the Ramadan will only start by you doing a moon sighting. It has to be moon sighted. And the other group saying we don't have to, we just could calculate for it and find out that if it is if it can be seen, you don't have to necessarily see it. But if it can be seen, you no longer need to actually see it. You can go ahead and start fasting the month of Ramadan. Now, let's talk a little bit about this, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and to go through this. This is a very controversial issue and it's causing a lot of division, unfortunately, in our communities overall. For the school of thought here is that once the people who said that you have to see the hadith, you have to see the moon sighting has to be done, they're following the exact instructions of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. The hadith is clear. There's no ambiguity about it. It says, fast when you see it, stop, break your fast when you see it. That's it, done. And the other group, they're saying, you know what, today, with today's advances, we no longer have to physically see it, because now with our calculations, and now we're far advanced than we were until, technically 50 or 60 or 70 years ago. Until today, we got to the point that even with the computer calculation, we'll be able to figure out exactly when the moon can be seen and cannot be seen. The moon sighting is, as we all know, is actually the moon has to be right before sunset. Right before sunset. As that when there is sunset, between the sunset before it gets dark, Maghrib, that is the time for the moon to be seen. And it looks like a sliver, looks like a nail, like a white nail, kind of, right in the horizon, approximately the height of somebody. You don't look up in the sky, you look up in the direction where the moon is. That is the time that can be seen. And it's preferable for you to be in a place that you don't see, there's no dust, there's no city lights, and in a clear place that you get to see. Now, the two schools of thought that we get to discuss the clues or the proof each one of them have used to substantiate their school of thought. The people who claim or they say, remember, when Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam in his time, up to about 200, 300, 400 years afterwards, the astrology was mixed with astronomy. Anybody who looks up at the skies, looks up at the nujum, and we say munajjim, and that is not something we frowned upon in Islam. This is something prohibited. This is haram. The astrology and all these different buruj, and the astrology, this is forbidden in Islam. And Rasulullah told us that anybody who goes to munajjim, he's no longer a Muslim. There's the sihr and then the people in nujum. This is not a Muslim anymore. So all the Muslims from the very beginning, they were always very careful of staying away from astrology and all these different sciences, or it was not really sciences. It's more like money stealing, and they're transgressing on the deen, on the ghaib, the knowledge of ghaib, and all these different things. So from the very beginning, there's no way anybody could possibly follow that path, just because the fact that astrology is the way the knowledge of nujum, the knowledge of the planets, is actually astrology. Today we have a different knowledge. Today we call it astronomy. Astronomy is very precise, science. Very precise, and now we're doing things, especially back in the 60s, 1960s and up, things was not even imaginable that we have somebody actually walking on the face of the moon. That's unbelievable. Or somebody actually penetrating the sky to go to the outer sky. That is unbelievable, And today, alhamdulillah, is entirely different. Astrology is clearly, we know what it is, we stay away from. Astronomy is a good science, and a lot of Muslim scientists who got into astronomy and everything else. That's number one. So early on, and by the way, this discussion about this subject it's not something new. This going back to the year 100 Hijri, even the days of Imam Shafi'i, this is like year 200. They always got into the same issue. They always discussed it. They always said, can we do it or we cannot do it? Is that okay or is not okay? Now, the people who follow the calculation method, they ask a question, a very legitimate question. How come we follow bigger ibadah, bigger worship, which is salah, and we follow the calculation way, and that's acceptable? Today, if you look at your calendar, I know exactly what minute is Salat al-Dhuhr a year from now, 10 years from now. It's written and I know what it is. And I'm accepting it. But yet, Ramadan, they say, no, that's not acceptable. That doesn't make any sense. That's one thing. Number two is, Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam in this other hadith here, that he told us, he says, نَحْنُ أُمَّةٌ أُمِّيَّةٌ. We are illiterate ummah. We don't read and write. Our month is this, and he pointed with his hands. Inshallah, we're going to have this hadith. He pointed like this. He says, our month is like this, and this. He did 9. And then he says, or this. So he already clarified it to be either 29 or 30, right? But he says, we are ummah ummiyah, we're illiterate. Well, he's talking, a lot of scholars said he's talking about himself. And of course, very few of his nation at the time knew how to read and write and knew about the sciences. Well, this is no longer the case. We're not illiterate anymore. MashaAllah, today we have the Muslim scientists that are actually the best in the world, possibly, conceivably. So they changed the condition, you see. So that's another one too, that the conditions have changed. Number 3 is, when we follow the calculation method, you see, it is a method that is proven to be correct, to be true. Because if you follow the calculation, we know exactly today, with computer programs, with sighting, we know when the moon can be seen and cannot be seen. And the last 10 to 15 years or so, we have proven that a lot of people who claim they saw, we know after the fact, saying definitely they did not see, because the other method is actually more accurate, right? Because we know exactly what the moon is, where the condition of the moon can be seen or cannot be seen. That is basically, in general, a lot of people have said this. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah said something interesting. When he said, Ibn Taymiyyah said that, he said that we should follow the eye sighting for the moon, for the month of Ramadan, and we should be doing it also for the salah. He actually said, why are we doing the, he said that is also incorrect. If you want to go, and this contradiction of the action, he said that is not acceptable. If we follow it in the Ramadan, we should follow it for the salah. If we do it for the salah, we should do it for Ramadan. Why are we saying for the salah is okay, and for Ramadan is not okay? By the way, he was in the opinion that it should be seen by eye, should be seen. Now, but we know today, there is many rules. I would like to add to this. Many rules in Islam, it is adding to the convenience or the path of things. Like for instance, can you imagine today, we cannot make salah until you go outside and, to look and see whether it's actually the shade is 100% or not 100%. The people in England, they're going to have an unbelievable hard time, because there will be like months and months and months of cloudy days. We'll never, the cloudiness will never go away. So how would they know, right? So there is a leeway for us to follow a method that will make things easier for ourselves, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is that when you look at the scholars today, the scholars are divided into this issue. The majority of the scholars, the majority of them, they want to follow this hadith as saying there should be an eye sighting. You should be able to see it. And few, and I don't want to say few, less so, they are convinced to say that we can go through and do the calculation method from there. Again, look at this hadith. What does this hadith say? فَإِذَا غَمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ, if you cannot see it, or غَبِيَ عَلَيْكُمْ, if you don't see it, what do? You go back to calculation. So calculation is an proven method. And according to this, so the calculation is from what? From the beginning of Sha'ban. So you count Sha'ban, either 29 days, and if you search for the moon. If you don't see it, complete Sha'ban to be 30 days. So you went back to calculation no matter what you did. You got to go back to the first day that you saw you saw the hilal in Sha'ban. And if you missed that day, it means the whole thing got pushed 30 days, or pushed a day, or pushed one day front, one way back. So the concept of calculation is there. We have it in our deen. Rasulullah says, I made a recommendation. He says that if you don't see it, calculate. Right?
Sorry, but this calculation is not in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
This is only to make 30.
Correct.
Calculation.
True. But calculation from the beginning.
Calculation is different, this calculation is different.
Okay.
This is only 29,
Mm-hmm.
and if you not see the moon, make it 30.
No, what I mean is that.
And more.
What I mean is that from the beginning of Sha'ban. So, let's say that you looked at the moon from Sha'ban, and it also was covered for you. So, how do you figure out which day is the first day of Sha'ban?
Because you completed 30. That is
No, but if
part of
everything
that.
got pushed.
Everything got pushed.
I just discussed.
Right.
We are talking about Ramadan.
Right.
If we not see the moon, it is concealed, cloudy, cannot see. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam make it 30.
Correct.
And the next day will be the first of Shawwal.
Correct.
That is it.
But here's the question. Make 30 from what?
Shawwal.
From Sha'ban. From the very first day of Sha'ban.
Not third, for Ramzan only. That is Hadith for Ramzan.
Correct. But now, how do we complete the 30 days for Sha'ban?
I cannot say that. I say only talking about the Hadith, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said.
Correct. But here's the question. Here's the question that the scholars have asked. Rasulullah ﷺ made a recommendation. He says, look, you look for the hilal. If you don't see it, complete Sha'ban to be 30.
Not Shaban, Ramzan 30.
No, Sha'ban. Sha'ban.
Ramzan. No. This is the point.
Okay.
Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, if you not see the moon, is it concealed or cloudy, make it 30. It means Ramzan should be 30.
No, this hadith, ya akhi, let me read the hadith for you one more time. And Abi Hurairah, radiallahu anhu, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Sumu liru'yatihi. Sum, start fasting when you see it.
Yeah.
The hilal. Waftaru liru'yatihi. Make fitr, break your fast for when you see the hilal.
Which halal?
Hilal at the end, the beginning. That's correct. Yes, that's right. The first Shawwal. But now here's the question. Now, listen to the other sentence. فَأَكْمِلُوا فَإِذَا غَبِيَ عَلَيْكُمْ. If he's covered for you, what do? He says, فَأَكْمِلُوا عِدَّةَ شَعْبَانَ. Complete the count of Sha'ban.
I am sorry for that.
Yeah.
But I read.
Right. That's true.
Ramzan, not
No.
Shawwal.
Okay. Now here's if you,
If you cannot see the moon,
uh-huh.
you make it 30. It
Correct.
means Ramzan 30.
Correct. That is correct.
Shawwal.
But
Shawwal maybe 828. Maybe
no,
maybe
cannot be.
No, it cannot be.
Shawwal can.
If it is mistaken, sometime in other countries it is mistaken, it is cloudy, and tomorrow was Shawwal, but you get the fasting because you could not see the moon. So the next month will go less, maybe 29. But in this
No,
hadith,
the hadith Rasulullah ﷺ has explained to us.
We will follow you, please.
Jazakallah.
But I understand. We are talking about Ramzan for Sayyam, not for Shawwal. We have
Okay,
to
akhi.
make the Ramzan
Just-
About the calculation, you go back.
About the calculation, watch. You're absolutely correct. Rasulullah ﷺ in the hadith, he explained to us. He says, look, the month is always the month 29 or 30, and he told us, he said this 10 times, and the other time he did that, so it's 29 or 30. That's number one. That's rule number one. Rasulullah ﷺ has explained it, number one. Now, any month that we need to calculate, what do? We look for the hilal.
Yeah.
If we see it,
Start one.
we start one. If we don't see it, we complete the month before,
Yes.
whatever the month before, we complete it to be 30.
Yes.
Very simple. And by the way, when you see 30, the hilal is going to be really clear. Really clear. There's no way you could miss it.
Look 2 days.
Exactly. There's no way you could miss it. So, the question here is this. Let's say that we are looking for the hilal, right? For the beginning of Ramadan. I'm not saying the end of Ramadan. The beginning of Ramadan. So, we go out there, we look. And let's say that it was cloudy or dusty and windy, we cannot see anything. So we need to complete Sha'ban to be 30, and then we start Ramadan.
Right.
But the question is, how do we know that we started Sha'ban correctly? We need to, if we're calculating, so you got to go back to the beginning of Sha'ban. So we did calculate. We went back to the calculation again. And the same thing with Ramadan. Let's say that you started Ramadan, right? And then you went on all the way to 29. You looked up. And now you don't see it, cloudy. So what do? You make 30 days. But how about if the whole Ramadan was cloudy? You did not see the beginning and you did not see the end. What do?
That is a special case, but sir, I'm very sorry. According to this hadith, he clearly shows if you fast when you see the moon.
Correct.
When you
Correct. Now, if you don't see it, you calculate.
Calculate.
Exactly.
You see the moon for Ramadan,
Right.
and start Ramadan.
Exactly.
And second to see the moon means of the next month.
Exactly. But here's the question again. What I'm asking is that
30 days for Ramadan. If
Right.
you not see
No,
the moon.
I think what you're saying is, I think I understand it. If there's a cloud and you cannot see the moon,
correct.
so you go to the Shaban and calculate from there and finish it. It is 30,
Finish it.
30 or 29 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And then your calculation will tell you
Exactly.
how many days Shaban.
So
is,
you
and then you start Ramadan.
exactly.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
technically, you are calculating.
Yeah.
If you cannot see,
Right.
you will have to calculate.
I just have one question.
Sure.
So this hadith is not for Ramadan only. It's for any month.
Just about any month.
I
Yes.
think that's
This
where
is
the
for
confusion
Siyam.
comes. No,
Especially
that's
for Siyam.
Yeah. This is
For Siyam,
specifically.
not for every month.
Akhi, this is for the beginning day of Ramadan. The beginning, not the end. Ramadan. But there is a question. When you are looking for the moon on, let's say you think it's the 29 Shaban, we don't know, 29 Shaban, let's say, right? And you don't see the moon for any reason. What do? You calculate from the beginning of Shaban, you make it 29, you complete it to be 30. It cannot be 31, never. It cannot be 28, it cannot be 31. It has to be 29 or 30, correct? So, if you complete it to be 30, the question to you is that, where is the first day of Sha'ban for you to start? What is the first day of Sha'ban? How about if you did not see it, or you calculated wrong from the very first day of Sha'ban? How about the same situation happened in Sha'ban that you did not see it, and you missed the beginning of Sha'ban, and guess what happens to you? You're going to miss the bare first day of Ramadan as well. That's the question. That's what the scholars are talking about. The question is that if you don't get to see, you go back to calculation. You need to count. You start counting. And that is the question that is troublesome to, if we say we don't calculate, we do calculate. It's allowed in our deen. We do calculate the same way. And that's the proof that the calculation method is not that far off. Now, the both proof from both ways, if you follow just the hadith says it's clear. The hadith here, صُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ, make siyam when you see it. And then what? وَافْطَرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ, make futur when you see it. That's it. Right? So, it should be clear that this is the order from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, for us to see. And the act of seeing, if the moon is actually up or down, this is not ibadah, this is not worship. But what do? We need to investigate and find out that is actually, can it be seen or cannot be seen? So, according to what we see today, Allahu A'lam, I think that, and that's my humble opinion. Either way, do you want to follow the moon sighting, or do you want to go with the calculation? There's something more important than that, is the unity of the Ummah. That's more important. It doesn't matter which way you want to go. What's important is that we should we should be all following one way. We should not be divided. The hadith Rasulullah ﷺ, and this is an Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, he was going to Hajj in the days of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. He was going to Hajj with him. And then he was telling, everybody with him, he says, we did this in the days of Rasulullah ﷺ, we did this. And you know what he was saying? We made 2 rak'ah in the Mina. When Rasulullah ﷺ made 2 rak'ah, made short, Salat al-Asr, instead of being 4, he made it 2. And then when he was standing there, all of a sudden, Uthman ibn Affan, the Emir of the Hajj at the time, he's the Khalifa. He made Salah and he completed the whole 4 rak'ah. So after he's done, and Ibn Abbas behind him, he prayed the whole 4 rak'ah. They looked at him and said, Ibn Abbas, didn't you? Radiallahu anhu, say, Ya Ibn Abbas, didn't you say it's only 2? And now he did 4. He looked at me, he said, Ya hada, at-tafriqa shar. Is that for us to divide? That is shar. That is evil. That is more evil than for us to change the sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, to follow the sunnah. Look how wise he was. For us to be, can you imagine that day if Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, he said, forget it, this is not sunnah, I will only make 2. Guess what? The Hajj would be divided in 2 separate groups. One group will be making 2, one group will make 4. What did he do? The wise person, Ibn Abbas, he says, no. The sunnah is not the priority at this point. The priority is jama'ah, is more important. I think today, wallahu alam today, ya akhi, and especially 40 or 50, 60 years ago, if the scholars look closely to the calculation method and they look at the eye-sighting method, they should come out with a better way. And by the way, my own opinion, I think we should follow the moon sighting. Simple. That's the way, just the way. And I would say 51%. Let's say 1% extra. I would go on that direction. But ultimately, if the whole ummah or the portion of the ummah, they want to calculate, no problem. Let's all of us calculate. Or let's all of us do the moon sighting. Let's do it this way or that way. But let's not divide. Let's not do this. That is the worst evil. That is the...
That was better.
What?
To every country, they see the moon sighting of moon.
Mm-hmm.
That was better because we are doing all this for the sake of unity.
But
unity, you see your dash, organization, Taliban, they are fighting for unity. All the Muslim Ummah should be connected and just like a Khilafat.
Right.
But what is going on? What is going on?
It's actually divided even more and more.
Suicide and bombing or like this all.
Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Yeah. So the point, ya akhi, the point is that unity is more important than anything else. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us an insurance policy. He says, لا تجتمع أمتي على ضلالة. My ummah would never gather, would never do one thing and it is dalala, it is wrong. Just for the fact that they gather on doing something, it would become correct, would become the right way, the sunnah way, inshallah. That's what it is, inshallah. Number 1. Number 2 is that, brothers, we should not be putting the other people down and start saying, this is wrong and this is right, and divide and say we're right and they're wrong, and start to boast about our iman. We are the true followers and they're not. This is the way of shaitan. What we should be doing is that we say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we'll try to unite the communities as much as possible for us not to go overboard, not to cause any division and more divisions in the community. And inshallah, at least for the one area, let's say Southern California, let's say the western part of the United States, let's just unite and do one thing. It doesn't matter. Just let's pick one thing and unite on it. Doesn't matter what that thing is. Inshallah, we say, Ya Allah, you know what? I think this way, but I'm going to follow the other way for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for us to be united. But for us to consistently, just to make a point and say, that is wrong and I'm not going to do it, that is wrong, I'm not going to do it, we end up being more division. Wallahi, the shaitan is laughing at us right now. He's laughing about the division that we're causing. And I don't know what to do with my own. I had, somebody was telling me a story. He says he had his in-law from overseas. He coming in here. He says, subhanAllah, he says to him, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. I celebrated two Eids, 2 consecutive days. I went to the Salah Eid, and the next day there was another Salah Eid, another day. So what is that? Here. He came here. Yeah, he came here in this country. It happened in this masjid.
They have 2. There are some people who will do. Yes.
I have to leave at 9. My bus will come at 9.
Okay, inshallah. So let's stop right here, inshallah, and then we'll, inshallah.
The time is 8:45. I see your advertisement.
Yeah, I know that, but I couldn't get the proper time, so they said that's the last bus.
Okay.
So
Inshallah. So we'll make a quick salah, inshallah.
Usually I take 9:30, so we have enough time to do
Right.
Okay.
Okay, inshallah. No problem, inshallah. So, inshallah, we'll continue our next halaqah, inshallah, and then we'll make dua, inshallah, after the salah. Barakallah feekum jameen. Jazakumullah khair, inshallah.